I have sincere hopes that you're not actually going to be watching this video and I'm doing this in vain, but this is Friday morning with the snowstorm supposedly coming tomorrow, and if it's so bad that we cannot have an 11 a.m. service, I wanted to have a backup, and so thus you're watching the backup. But my hope and my prayer is we have a service at 11 a.m. On Sunday and that you don't see this. Nevertheless, if you have, you certainly need to be prepared to worship, because I believe it's the Lord's Day and we need to hear from God, and that's really why we're doing this. Now we're continuing our series through 1st and 2nd Samuel and talking about the tale of two kings. We now know that Saul is off of the scene and David has united Israel. David is king. David is strong as the king at this point. And most of the time, if you're preaching through a book, I noticed just reading some this week that a lot of people just skip chapter 10 and go straight to the next chapter, chapter 11, because it really is more of preaching material. Of course, we get the eyes on Bathsheba and what takes place there. But with that in mind, I do see some things that we need to gain from chapter 10. It's a story, and so we're going to read all of the chapter. We're going to start in verse 1 and read to verse 19, and I'm going to then use the introduction to retell the story and bring out something that I think we need to see as Christians that needs to be a part of us dealing with difficulties in our lives. And so as we come together, we're going to look at when good intentions are misunderstood, and I think you'll be able to identify some with what happens to David right here. So the Bible begins by telling us in verse 1, and it came to pass after this that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his stead. Then said David, I will show kindness to Hanun, the son of Nahash. Remember, Nahash had showed kindness to David, as his father showed kindness unto me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants for his father. And David's servants, they're really ambassadors, okay? And David's ambassadors came into the land of the children of Ammon. And the princes of the children of Ammon, these are the people that's going to be speaking into Hanun's mind for a moment. Then the children of Ammon said unto Hanun, their lord, now notice this, thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, that he hath sent comforters unto thee? Hath not David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city and spy it out and to overthrow it? Now, does anybody see a problem here? David honestly appreciates Hanun's father, Nahash. He had been good to him and showed him kindness in his difficult days. Now David finds out that he dies, and he wants to send ambassadors representing him. And that day, kings didn't travel to other countries. By and large, they would send ambassadors to take their place. We'll talk about that in just a second. Whenever they get there, the advisors to Hanun actually thinks that he has ulterior motive, that he's trying to overthrow the city. And so when you get to verse 4, the Bible really takes a major turn. Wherefore Hanun, he takes the advice now, took David's servants, remember they're his ambassadors, and shaved off the one half of their beards and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. If you want me to just explain it to you, they pretty much took half their face, shaved this side, left the beard here, and then they ripped them of their clothes halfway down, which would mean they're having to leave the town basically naked, exposed, and very embarrassed. And what an unnecessary thing to do for David to show kindness. But watch what happens in verse 5. And when they told it to David, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. I told you they were very embarrassed to leave the town like that, the city like that. And the king said, tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. So he told him, you have to go back to Jerusalem right now. Now watch what happens, because it gets really interesting. And when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, interesting translation in the King James of that, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians of Bethrob and the Syrians of Zobah and 20,000 footmen of the king Maacah, 1,000 men of Ishtab, 12,000 men. And when David heard of it, now watch what David does. He's strategic. He sent Joab. He holds the position that David actually at one time held the position of under Saul's army. So Joab is the leader of the military for Israel and all the host of mighty men. So he's going to commission them out. And the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array at the entering of the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah and of Rehob and Ishtab and Maacah were by themselves in the field. When Joab saw, and this is Joab finds himself in a predicament, Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him before and behind. He has a front in front of him. He's going out the battle, but they think they're smart. Ammon has hired others that will come in from behind, and so they're going to surround Israel's army. And so here's what happens. Joab saw the front of the battle was against him before and behind, and he chose from all the choice men of Israel and put them in array against the Syrians. So he took the choice men he's going to face in front. And the rest of the people he delivered into the hand of Abishai, his brother, he's second in command, that he might put them in array against the children of Ammon. So he's going to cover the back. And he said, if the Syrians be too strong for me, then thou shalt help me, and if the children of Ammon be so strong for thee, then I'll come and help you, or help thee. And so he's trying to make a plan. Be of good courage, verse 12 is emphasized in my mind. Be of good courage, let us play the men for our people, and for the cities of our God, and the Lord do that which seemeth him good. Basically, let's do us right and let God deal with this. And Joab drew nigh, and the people that were with him in the battle against the Syrians, and they fled before him. So Joab leads his men. They win. They're victorious. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Syrians had fled, they actually look and go, man, this is not good. They turn around and flee. The Bible says they fled also from Abishai and entered into the city. And Joab returned to the children of Ammon and came to Jerusalem. And when the Syrians saw that they were smitten before Israel, they gathered themselves together. So all of the groups that have run gathered themselves together. Now, this is interesting. And Hadarezer sent and brought out the Syrians that were beyond the river. And they came to Helam. And Shobach, the captain of the host of Hadarezer, went before them. And when it was told David, he gathered all Israel together and passed over Jordan and came to Helam. And the Syrians set themselves in array against David and fought with them. And the Syrians fled before Israel. And David slew the men of 700 chariots of Syrians and 40,000 horsemen, and smote Shobach, the captain of their host, and he died there. And when all the kings that were servants of Hadarezer saw that they were smitten before Israel, they made peace with Israel. I bet they did. And served them. So the Syrians feared to help the children of Ammon anymore. They got them in that mess and they said, we'll not do this again. What's interesting is the relationship between Ammon and Israel and what had never been settled from the past, and has everything to do with why this battle took place and they walked away with shame. Let's pray and ask God to help us parallel some things that are in our lives from this very strong passage about war. Father, thank you so much for helping us to be able to look into your word. I pray for the next few moments as we draw three truths from this, that, Father, you'll be glorified. Help me to be faithful to this text and for us to learn something from it. In Jesus' name, and amen. Have you ever done the right thing with the right heart and have your motives questioned, or your actions actually misread? That's the story that we have before us. David, because a king had offered him kindness, and he passes away. David wants to send his ambassadors to Ammon to actually tell them that he is sorry and to show kindness to him. Matter of fact, verse 2 tells us, and David said, I will show kindness unto Hanun, the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness unto me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants, ambassadors, for his father. And so, in good faith, God allowed David to extend grace to Hanun because he had lost his father. Now, David's intentions were pure, but his intentions were misread. Hanun is now the new king, and he has advisors, he has princes that are going to be in an advisory capacity to him, and they tell him that David's doing this because he's up to no good. It says in verse 3, thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, and he hath sent comforters unto thee? Are you thinking that's what he's doing? No. David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city, to spy it out, and to overthrow it. Now, we see the behind the scene story, and we know that's not David's intentions. He truly is sad at the death of a king that was actually kind to him in his terrible or tough times. And he just wants to say that he is sorry and to come alongside of the new king, his son, to be a friend to him. And so fresh off of grace and kindness that David has now shown to Mephibosheth, remember, he had made right by, is there any sons of Jonathan left that I can extend grace to? And they find out about Mephibosheth, and David shows grace to Mephibosheth, brings him in, adopts him as his son, sits at the table. David is going to allow Mephibosheth to really live in the palace like he had lived previously, in all probability, as a son of Jonathan. And so here we have David showing kindness again. And this time, though, unlike Mephibosheth, this kindness is not received well. We have a grieving king. And this new king that's grieving his father's death had a father who had been good to David. And in the past, we know that Ammon and Israel had some conflicts and aggression. We even, if we remember some in First Samuel, we even know that some of the aggression played a role in Saul's rise to power. But besides all that, David, as his time as a fugitive, found out that he also had a friend in the king of Ammon who was kind to him. Now, he had a pure motive, but Hunan receives poor counsel from his advisors, and he listens to that counsel, and it's really important you get counsel from. We'll come to that in a second. And he decides, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show David that I know what he's up to. I'm going to embarrass his ambassadors, and he cuts their beard off, half of their beard off, and he cuts their clothes, half of them off, and they actually leave the city basically disrobed and in shame. David hears about it, and David's upset, which would be the understatement, because David's ambassadors have been humiliated. So he hears about this, and the Bible tells us that he's repulsed. We know that because when we get to verse 6, and the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David. I love that phrase, but in all honesty, it's an accurate portrayal. David's nose was turned up that they would do this. He was repulsed that they would do this to his ambassadors that represents him. And so with that done, the war is about to begin. And so the Amorites prepare for a war quickly. The Bible tells us they bring in the Arameans, 20,000 men there. Then they go to Mecca, and they bring 1,000 men. Then they bring 12,000 from Ishtab. And David responds by sending Joab and his fighting man to the front for this war to begin. Now, I want you to notice when Joab gets there, he finds out that in all probability he was shocked that the Amorites had planned as well as they did. They had brought extra forces to fight against Israel, and he finds out he's going to have to fight in front, he's going to have to fight behind. Thankfully, he has his brother who is obviously second in command. We just take that as an assumption, but he's second in command underneath Joab, and Joab's going to go one direction and fight this group, and he's going to have his brother lead a select group that's going to fight the group behind them. And get to verse 9. And Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him and behind him. And he chose of all the choice men of Israel and put them in array against the Syrians. And the rest of the people he delivered unto the hand of Abishai, his brother, that he might put them in array against the children of Ammon. So his brother's going to fight Ammon. He's going to fight those that's been hired, trained to fight. And God was with Israel. And what actually happens is Joab is so successful that the Amorites from behind see the success, and they all take off and regroup together. Verse 17 tells us that they're going to plan to come together again. And then when we get to verse 18, the Syrians fled before Israel, and David slew the man 700 chariots and Syrians and 40,000 horsemen, and smote Shabach and the captain of the host, who died there. In other words, that they have one more battle, they regroup, and they all come together face to face, and Israel obviously does extremely well. Let's go back. It's a lot of fighting. a lot of bloodshed. And it all started because David desired to show kindness to the new king, Hanun of Ammon. And he received some bad advice because, in all honesty, he misinterpreted his kindness. So I'm going to draw some truths from this unusual story because I think it's worth our time to do so. Good intentions can be questioned by suspicious hearts. Good intentions can be questioned by suspicious hearts. I just want to look at verse 3 and a portion of verse 3. The princes of the children of Ammon said to Hanun, their lord, thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, and he hath sent comforters unto thee? Is that what you're thinking? Are you thinking, David, are you thinking, Hanun, that David's just trying to be kind to you? No. David wants to get into the city. He wants to scope it out. And David desires to overthrow our city. And so suspicious hearts interpret David's kindness as a threat. Suspicious hearts interpret David's kindness as a threat. Now, David's intention was clear. David sent those men to truly show kindness to them. Kindness from a strong leader evidently was threatening. And I will say this. I think that there are people, growing up, I used to hear a phrase, some people see a booger behind every bush. I know that's probably not good to say from the pulpit, but being this is video, I don't get to see her give me the Barnes brow about saying that. But let me tell you, when you're ruled by fear, or you think everyone's out to get you or your family, or you believe every act of grace has a hidden agenda, that's what you're going to do. And I'm afraid, I've pastored some people that is their mindset. They're ruled by fear, or somehow they think everyone's out to get them, and it's like there's been some conspiracy to come together and to do something against them or their family, or they find a hidden agenda behind every kind thing that's done. Now put this in my notes. Suspicion often says more about the heart receiving kindness than the one that's offering the kindness. I think it says a lot about the insecurity. And I know some believers that have that type of insecurity, that they really do see suspicion behind every kind act. I also wrote this down. Ungodly counsel fuels lust. In verse 3, you don't know what's in anyone's heart, but it's amazing that his advisors decide that they think they do know what's in David's heart. Notice they question his motives. Hanun's princes planted doubt where there was no doubt to be planted. And so here we have a new king that's grieving. His advisors come and give him advice. They believe that David's up to no good, even though they have no way to back up their story. That it's just pure suspicion, but it was taken as fact, so much so that Hanun humiliates the ambassadors of Israel. And I think every Christian needs to hear this. Bad counsel will feed fear. Bad counsel will swell your pride. Bad counsel will cause paranoia. And that's exactly what takes place. And boy, wrong verses turn sincere gestures into perceived attacks. And so I look at this and I think there's several things that's happening here. We don't know the heart or the motive of a man. We just have to look at what they have done. And we'll come back to that in just a moment. But here's what lingered in my mind as I was working on this sermon. And several commentaries did bring it to reference. The past experiences between Ammon and Israel was playing a role here. Israel and Ammon had some complicated history. If you just study 1 Samuel, and we mentioned it, and I know it's been a while since we've covered some of this, but ultimately, Hanun judged David through the lens of the past. All right, let me say it like this. There's obviously some things he had not let go, and toward Israel, and I was talking about this very thing with our discipleship group this past week, and I think it was Brian, one of our men, but I'm almost sure it was Brian, made the statement that I had something close to that already written in my handwritten notes before I'd turned this into a sermon. He said, "We judge others by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions." I know what I'm trying to do, and I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt. But for some odd reason, some people don't give others the same benefit of the doubt they would give themselves. And that's exactly what we see right here with Hanun. He doesn't give David the benefit of the doubt. He listens to bad counsel. He listens to counsel that's telling him and leading him in the wrong way. And a lot of people are going to die because the king listened to bad counsel. And I want to say this to you. Unhealed memories, and please listen to this, Pastor, unhealed memories often create unnecessary enemies. I know people, they say the hatchet is buried, but the hatchet's not buried. Or they say they've moved on, but they've not moved on. And because of that, any present grace is going to be misread because they did not let go. I want to pause and ask the obvious question, what are you holding on to right now? That would paint someone in a bad light in your mind, not because of what they do, but what you think they intend by what they're doing. And I know that's a lot of words, but think about it. We live here on a regular basis, and we can perceive enemies where enemies don't exist. So it brings me to the second thing I want to say. Misinterpreted kindness can provoke needless conflict. Misinterpreted kindness can provoke needless conflict. Verse 4, the Bible's very clear. He shaves off one half of their beards, very insulting, cuts off half of their garments. You can see them, the text even says, even to their buttocks. It's letting you know that their private parts were being exposed, and then they send them away. They let them march out of the city in that shape. Do you see that shame has now replaced respect? David wants to show respect to the new king. Knows that he's grieving over his father. He shows kindness by these ambassadors, and it's not received well. And ultimately, Hanun and his advisors will be thoroughly humiliated because they misinterpret David's kindness. And I want to say this, and we won't belabor this long, but pride escalates the offense sometimes. I'm not going to back down from this. I know what you're trying. He didn't know what he was trying to do. What David was trying to do was be kind. But he was so full of pride he couldn't see it. He had memories of past conflicts between Ammon and Israel, and he could not see it. And so he takes David's servants and he shaves off half of their beards and half of their clothing, and Hanun becomes hostile toward David's ambassadors. And I want you to understand, in the ancient world, kings would not normally travel to another country. They would send ambassadors, and here's what was the norm in the ancient world. They would treat the ambassador, or that new country, or that country would treat the ambassador as they would treat the king. I mean, they would, with our vernacular, roll out the red carpet. But that's not what happens here. What happens here is Hanun listens to some bad advice. And he can't get some of the past out of his mind. And because of the bad advice and the past lingering in his mind, he humiliates the king's representatives, King David's representatives. He humiliates them. And King David is going to respond. Private suspicion becomes public hostility in this passage. Private suspicion becomes public hostility. That quiet doubt grows into what we're going to call for Ammon a national disgrace. It is amazing to me how small offenses hastily grow. It is amazing to me how rapidly it can turn to hostility if it's not dealt with. We see some things in this passage that we need to learn from. I see impulsive decisions. My mind went automatically to road rage when impulsive decisions. There's people that are living with terrible decisions they made because they did not control their temper. Then there's these impulsive decisions that have lasting consequences. There's disrespect invited by retaliation. There is in this story a moment of folly that's going to destroy what could be a good relationship. Which brings us to the last thing that I see in the passage. Confident faith can confront inevitable conflict. I don't think I have to preach very long on this statement. There's going to be conflict in our life. It's going to come. There's nobody who's going to be honest with you and tell you anything different. Conflict will come. Wise faith will prepare and deal with it without panic. I want to go to verse 6. When the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians of Betharob and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 footmen, and the king of Maacah, 1,000 men, and Ishtab, 12,000 men. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab. Joab is going to he's going to shine in just a moment. And all the host of the mighty man. And the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array at the entry into the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah and Rehob and Ishtab and Maacah were by themselves in the field. And Joab recognizes the dilemma when he gets there. He recognizes that he has an army in front of him and an army behind him. I'm not going to reread that text. We've already read it, you know. And Joab calmly looks at his situation. And I'm sure I'm sure that he was not quiet, but he's very reasonable, very practical. He hand selects men that are going to face these hired army that's in front of him. And then he takes his brother, who's obviously second in command, and he gives him the remaining ones that's going to face the Amorites. And the war begins. And Joab is so effective that his crowd runs from him for safety. And when the Amorites see that, they run as well. Can we all agree that Joab looked at a situation and he calmly responded to it? I think there's a big contrast between Hanun and Joab. And here's what I wrote down. Suspicion reacts blindly, but faith responds wisely. He actually literally says in verse 12 something that I think is tremendous. And I read it in the King James. I want to read in the Holman translation for you because I love the heart of Joab. And it comes so clear in this translation of God's word. Be strong. We must prove ourselves strong for our people and for the cities of our God. May the Lord's will be done. Courageous faith acts without certainty. Joab had no assurance that he would win this battle. But I like what he said. May the Lord's will be done. He basically said, I'm going to select this group and we're going to fight this crowd. And I'm going to have my second in command fight the crowd behind me. And I'm just going to do what's right. And I'm going to defend our people and let the Lord's will be done. Faith is not confident always in the outcome, but it certainly helps me to realize that it's obedience and uncertainty that helps me win. And here's what I gather from this. Sometimes when I don't know how things are going to end, I have to do what's right and trust God. And that's exactly what Joab does right here. So how do we tie this together and how do we conclude this sermon? Well, I'm going to start by saying conflicts and misunderstandings are going to happen. And I think Joab gives us the best advice that we can find anywhere in text. Be of good courage. The Lord do that which seemeth him good. You can see the difference in just how plainly the Holman translation says that. But I definitely want you to see it from the King James. And he says, the Lord do that which seemeth him good. God's going to do what's best. And we can trust that. So here's what we do. We do what Joab did. We plan carefully, we act courageously, and we trust God completely. I'm going to say that again. We plan carefully, we act courageously, and we trust God completely. I need to do what's right, I need to act with courage, and I need to know that God's going to do what seemeth right to him, and he's God who never makes a mistake. But let's go back to what started all this. It starts with kindness. Then it moves to suspicion that is unmerited. And it ends with God's people having to trust God in spite of what takes place. And I'm going to talk very practically to you right now. Sometimes you find yourself in conflict and you can honestly say you did the right thing and your heart was right when you did what you did. But your motives were questioned. And because of that, your actions were misinterpreted and now you're standing at a place you never wanted. I understand that. I've been there myself. You're not going to lead a church and that not happen sometimes. I want you to understand that you and I are not responsible for how others interpret my obedience to God. We're not responsible. What we're responsible for is to obey God. And I know everyone's not going to understand. I know that. But it does not change the fact. It does not change the fact that I have to please God with my decisions. Job teaches us to stand in moments just like this. Be of good courage, and the Lord do that which seemeth him good. So I'm going to end by telling you this. Today, God may be calling you to do what Ammon should have done, and that's release an offense that you've been carrying. And there could be somebody listening to me preach right now that they have held on. They would have said it's over, but it's in the back of their mind every time they do any bidding with this individual that's in their mind. And they hold them at arm's length, and they always will. And what they do is they see everything that person does as an offense. And I'm going to say to you, release that. Release that. If you're carrying that in your heart and in your soul, it's going to come back and it's going to haunt you. Stop replaying a misunderstanding. Even stop replaying sometimes when you've been misunderstood. Then lay down control. Give it back to God. And say, God, you know my heart. you're doing what's right, and you let God be God. And so if you need grace to forgive, God will give you that grace. If you need courage to stand, God's going to give you that courage. If you need peace to trust, God will be with you in the result. Obedience is your responsibility. Outcomes are God's. I'm going to say it again. Obedience is your responsibility. Outcomes are God's responsibility. Wisdom will seek clarity before reaction. Man, I'm preaching to me right now, but all of us, boy, we need to have clarity before we jump. And then finally, we need to rest in God's sovereignty. We do what we know to be right and rest in God's sovereignty. I hope that if you're listening to me preach and there's something on your back that you've not let go, that you'd be willing to let go. And if there's misunderstandings, it's called conflict, you've got to trust God in that. You've got to trust God in that. I believe there's some people that's listening to me preach that just need to let some things go. I pray that you can do that. Now tonight, at 6:30, there'll be another video, and I'm continuing on Sunday night in one of the chapters that we have in our discipleship groups. And I hope that you'll come and listen. We're going to talk about Zacchaeus tonight. I think you will enjoy that challenge. And thank you so much for signing in and listening to this Sunday morning sermon. God bless you, and man, I hope you keep on keeping on for Him.